This video will review how to find, read, and use the digital object identifier files for appropriate citation of data from the HEAR repository. When you use the HEAR data repository, you enter through this website, which shows you the data that's available from the HEAR program. Everyone working with the repository has access to this section of their account, which is the Working Files Management section. And with every download that you generate, you get a code book which tells you the codes that are used to represent different concepts within the data. And you also generate a DOI alignment file. Now, this file contains all of the digital object identifiers, or DOIs, for the original data sets used to create your custom data set. A digital object identifier, or again a DOI, is a unique alphanumeric string assigned to a digital object. We often see these with journal articles, but they are also associated with data sets or other scholarly work to provide a permanent link to its location on the internet. DOIs ensure that that digital object can be reliably found and cited. A DOI ensures that proper credit is given to the creators of the original dataset and records its use in derivative works. So as a user of the HEAR repository, you will use these DOIs when you cite the use of the dataset that you've created. In this video, I'm going to demonstrate to you where you find these DOIs when you create your customized download, and then point you to our HEAR publication policy document, which is going to provide step-by-step instructions on how to use those DOIs in your citations and then use them in your publications. So as I said, anyone who has an account with the HEAR data repository has this Working Files Management section, which stores all of the data that you have generated and downloaded. And we do have a video for this if you're not so sure how to access it. So please do watch that video as well. So again, for every download that you have, the data are CSV files, and they're often called object alignment, followed by the date that you created the data. There's the code book, and then there is the DOI alignment file. And so when you open this file, and I'm just going to preview it, you will see that it lists all of the DOIs that were generated based on the data set that you created by selecting either different studies or selecting different characteristics of studies that you wanted to use when you created your customized data set. Now, each row in this file corresponds to a specific data element retrieved from one of the original study files. So that is, we provide a DOI for every data element used to create your custom data download. Now, for most users, you're really only interested in the DOIs used, not the number of times it was used. And you can restrict this data file after you export it out into any kind of software to be able to remove duplicates. For example, you can see we have multiple versions of this same DOI here. We're really only interested in seeing it once. However, we provide all of the information if you are interested in sort of how much of your data is coming from one source versus the other. Now, if you just look at these DOIs, you can see that they have a very similar structure across all of them. So what you see is all DOIs start with the reference to doi.org, and then we have this next number, which is unique to the HEAR data repository, this 1036043. After that, most of the DOIs in our system will follow the same structure, which is there will be a 4-digit, sometimes 2-digit, but most often 4-digit study number. And this is the number that typically comes after the year of a study. So for example, if a study was joined the HEAR program in 2018, their study number starts with 2018 dash and then a 4-digit unique identifier. That's what you see here, right? This is the study number. Then there's an underscore, and then there is another 3-digit identifier that identifies the specific file from that study. Okay, this, again, we do this because then it's much easier to find the information in other parts of our system. So again, there's a pretty similar structure across all of the DOIs, and so that can sort of help with when we're using them, making it a little bit easier. So now, right, you want to, you know which DOIs you've used, right? These are, if I was using this data set, I would know, okay, I have to cite all of these different DOIs. And so again, you don't need to cite the duplicates, right? You just need to know that it's once. And you can do that in lots of different ways. The easiest probably is in Excel or some other spreadsheet type software. You can just remove the duplicates. And so in this example, there's actually only 16 unique DOIs that were used to create the data set. So once you have that list of unique data sets, now we want to find the information about each one in our system. So we can do that by going to the Studies tab. So I'm going to use this 2512 as an example to show you, but you would need to do this for all of the DOIs that you've used. So going just back to the main page, we can go to the Studies section, and here we have all the information about all of the different studies, and please note that I am logged in. You do need to be logged in for this. So really quickly, I can just find the study that I'm interested in, which is 2512, and I just do Control F just to skip from scrolling so much. And we can see here some information about the study. I go to accessing the study specific files, and what we can see here is that the DOIs are next to the specific file that they correspond to. So now remember from the preview I showed you for 2512, I actually used both of these files, 647 and 648. Sorry. So when I go back to this, I know that I need information for both of these files. Now, the kind of information that we want to be able to find out about for the DOI in terms of citing are things like the title of the study, the principal investigator of the original study. Just like when you're citing a journal article, these are the things that help define that scholarly product. And so we do the same thing when we want to cite data sets. Now, we provide you with this list of information that you need in our publication policy. So if you go to resources on the site, and I've already gone there, you'll see that, and I can just do it again to show you. If you go under resources on the site, and then our HEAR publications policy is its own tab, you can download that policy. And under section 4, which is on page 2, we have step-by-step instructions on how to cite the HEAR data. So let's recap how we got to this point. We looked at the DOI file associated with our specific data set and got a list of all of the DOIs in our data set. Then we were able to go to the study pages to find out relevant information. And the relevant information that you want to retrieve from that study page is listed here in case you ever forget. The PI name, the project name, the type of data, and that also is all on the study page, the year that it was deposited, the repository name, which is the HEAR data repository, the date you accessed it, and then finally the DOI. Well, again, all of this information is listed here on the site in the publication policy, along with an example of what that would look like. And so the user who is downloading the data and then citing the DOIs would refer to this in order to create the DOIs that would go, again, at the end of a journal article that is reporting on the use of that data for a presentation. And you might say, well, why do we need to do this? And again, it goes back to the purpose of the DOI. we want to give credit to the original investigators who populated the HEAR data repository, right? This also allows individuals to know exactly where the customized data set that you created came from, right? How it was derived. So it's really important to cite these DOIs properly. Now remember, if you used 16 different studies or 16 different study files to generate your data, you would have 16 unique citations. We're currently working on creating a Dropbox that would allow you to search for the information associated with each DOI much more quickly. But for now, it does involve having the list of DOIs and then going back to the study pages to get that information. Again, the years, the titles, the PI name, and then the specific type of data. Again, all of this information is listed on the study page that is associated with the DOI that you used. So once you have all that information and you create your citations, you're ready to go to discuss the different data sets or report on the work you've done with those data sets in your publications. So just as one final review of what we talked about in this video, we went to our individual workplace management to find our DOI files. It's in the same place that we find the data that we download. For each DOI that we find, and again, they have a very similar structure, we go to the studies page to find out the relevant information, and we format it as it's outlined in the HEAR publication policy. Thank you, and I hope this helps you cite the data from the HEAR data repository much more easily.